Good afternoon to your business desk. We start here tonight. A new initiative has been launched in South Africa that aims to see at least 72,000 new farming or agricultural jobs added and transform the farming sector to increase the share of black farmers, rising to 20% in the next 10 years. The IDH and the You Can Grow have launched one-of-a-kind initiative and have spearheaded the launch that also aims to move South Africa away from its over-reliance on food imports that have been identified, at least 20 billion rands worth of goods and sources, and source these from local farmers. The purpose of this initiative is to strengthen the African food value chain and grow the continent's food systems. To share more on this initiative, we are joined by Daan Wensing, the CEO at IDH. Daan, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. What is IDH? And because the name has changed from IDH Sustainable Trade Initiative to now just IDH.
Well, good afternoon to you and to your viewers, and thanks for having us today. IDH is a global organization with a unique mandate to transform markets as an engine for sustainable development. And we do that by harnessing the power of the private sector in terms of its innovation power, in terms of its sourcing power, its investment and delivery. However, we also do that in public-private partnerships, right? Because only the private sector can't do it. We really need all stakeholders together. And as IDH, we built these kind of coalitions here in South Africa, across the African continent, but also in Europe, Latin America, and Asia. And finally, it's not only about then, bringing people together, creating a shared language, but also taking real action, like the targets you just mentioned.
These are audacious targets, 72,000 new jobs, and you've also identified the fact that you want to raise at least 9.6 billion rand of the 17 billion rand that is needed in the agricultural space. But this is not just about South Africa. It's about utilizing the land and the farming that we have in Southern Africa, in the SADC region, to utilize them more efficiently so that you source more goods within SADC rather than import at least what we have identified, 20 billion rands worth of imported goods and foods that we can source within SADC.
Absolutely. And I think the COVID crisis and also what's happening now, globally, is again showing that we need to increase the resilience of our food systems. And yes, we have a global food system, and it will always be there. Not a single country can grow all its food itself. But at the same time, we can do much better, and we can collectively invest in farmers in South Africa, but also in Southern Africa, because those markets are very much interconnected, right? South Africa exports to its neighbors and imports from its neighbors. And by really focusing on growing, the base of farmers that can supply their own market, we become less resilient on imports that are super expensive, and actually use those funds that are used for imports to invest in the sector, to grow it, to make it very professional. And we really have to take a business approach to it. So yes, it's all about sourcing, it's about investment, so that it is resilient in itself and it can self-propel to really reach these audacious targets that we've mentioned and that are aligned with government policy.
Are these achievable? Because you want to also achieve, you seek to achieve, if I can put it that way, growth of 32 billion rands, real growth in the agricultural value chain in South Africa within the next 10 years. But what we've normally seen in South Africa is that we've got good initiatives and policies on paper, but it's always been the implementation of such initiatives that has always been a bottleneck for South Africa. As you started today, I saw Tiger Brands, I saw other major companies, Unilever being there, but I also saw a mining company, Sibanye Stillwater. Tell us about their involvement, because we're talking about food here, and it's a different commodity to the resources that Sibanye is involved in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to your first point, yes, again, these are big targets, and the world, is full of MOUs that are never really being implemented. So what we did today is we brought together 16 partners that not only have a willingness to act, but are actually already working on this transformation. So we can build on what's already there. But by putting them together, breaking down the barriers that now exist, we can really amplify what they're doing. And this coalition isn't finished, so more and more partners also to reach those targets need to be in. But we will also be very transparent in terms of, setting our baselines and then mapping progress. So that is not just another phrase out there, another commitment that is not being acted upon. So I have a strong belief that this coalition is going to take action. In terms of the link to the mining sector, well, indeed, the whole initiative is about food systems and food system transformation. But we also know that mining companies have a lot of land that is not being used for mining. And that could be used actually to produce food. So that is the link with the mining sector.
And what are you telling the mining sector? Are you saying that release the land to communities so that they become subsistence farmers, and those are the people that you actually are looking to support here, subsistence farmers, and making sure that the land that is available is there. It is something that is needed by not just Stillwater, but by the mining sector as well, as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's along those lines. I mean, we're not in the position, of course, to tell people what to do, but very much to invite them to think of, okay, how can we repurpose that land? How can we link it indeed to local and regional needs so that we can indeed look into elements like food security, localization of value change. And I think there's a will to win out there.
The purpose of this, and something that I also saw, is that you're warning that there could be a critical risk of food security or food insecurity in SADC if such initiatives are not supported to support black farmers transform the agricultural space. But there are different challenges to the big farmers that we have in South Africa and the small subsistence farmers. What challenges are those farmers that you are targeting actually facing today?
Well, I think we include all farmers because we need all of them. And if you look at South Africa, then a lot of the large farmers are also export-oriented. So it's also bringing in foreign exchange. And I'm a Dutchman, so when I go to a retail outlet in my country, I can buy produce from South Africa. Which I think is great for the country to have that and to use it as a catalyst. And I think for other farmers that are not yet there, I think that's a great prospect, right? Can you export to other markets, which are often premium markets, which are very secure? And I think that's then a wheel of change in the entire sector to drive it forward. The smaller producers, they face different challenges indeed, in South Africa, but especially beyond. And with a growing population, right, which is going to double in the next tens of years, we really need a lot more food. So indeed, to combat food insecurity, we rapidly need to grow more food here and do that in a sustainable way. And in order to make that happen, we need to provide the smaller producers access to markets, access to finance, but also access to inputs and training, so that we can help them produce in a sustainable manner and get that access. So it's a full package that we need to organize.
Dan, it's never an overstatement to talk about agriculture and agro-processing, not only in South Africa but on the continent. Have you found that you have to work harder to convince leaders on the continent that it's so easy to work in farming and agriculture on the continent because the land is right, the environment is conducive? Do we realize how big the farming sector could become as a continent, not just the SADC region?
Well, I think we start to realize the potential, but we're not grasping it yet. I mean, the continent has ample fertile land. It has a huge workforce that is willing and ready to make it happen. It has the entrepreneurs. But putting it all together and then taking it to the next level, I think that is also what this alliance here in Southern Africa wants to do. And it is not only for Southern Africa, because indeed, based on this model, we want to launch similar alliances in East Africa and in West Africa, so that the full continent, there's the Africa for Africa agenda, but also the Africa to the world agenda. And I think that full potential we still need to seize.
Daan Wensing is the CEO at IDH. Thank you very much for your time.